Hi, everybody. Those who are joining us for the first time today, I am Nicole Peter-Patterson, co-founder of Caribbean Girls Hack. We are so excited to have you here with us today, especially Manine, who is already greeting everybody in the chat. Manine, you're going to go on camera so that they know that you're coming up?
Yes.
That's right. We are handing over to Manine. Boy, let me tell you, action-packed. That's what you call it with Manine, right? Make sure action-packed. Have your fingers ready over your keyboards, ready to rock and roll. Bridget is with us. Bridget says, thumbs up. Kevin, ready to rock and roll. And we are bringing on Manine. Bridget, you're going to say a few words. We have so many new girls. I'm sure you have a lot of news from yesterday.
Actually, we'll do that at the, oops, you went mute. But hi girls, we do have quite a few announcements for you, but we're gonna do that at the end when Manine is done. So please do not jump off. We have a lot of housekeeping and a lot of information for the girls who have to form teams. So we're gonna give you some pointers there. So please do not jump off the call because we're gonna tell you what's next for you as it relates to how you're gonna form your teams. We had a great session last night. We know some of you were not aware of it. Again, check your spam. We've been sending emails to girls and it's all in the spam. And when we ask girls to actually open up their spam, they're like, oh my gosh, they're all the emails that you've been sending me. They're in spam. And once you open it up and you say, this is not junk, then you're good to go. Everything else is going to keep coming to you. So please, if you're not hearing from us, there is a reason why. It's because the emails are in your spam. You need to check your spam, open up an email and say this is not junk. And all the emails that you're going to get from us will now start to come up in your inbox. Okay? So please.
I have an idea, Bridget. I think we're going to put on the Instagram and the social media, spam. Just one person that just says spam. And everyone will like, who wrote the spam?
Spam.
Right. Okay. I'm handing it over to you guys.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll do more at the end in terms of a couple of housekeeping points. But for now, I'm going to flip back to Nicole so she can introduce Manine. See you later.
Manine.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Right, I need to get out. I know you're still here. I need to get out of the way. Ladies, and we have a few gentlemen. Some gentlemen are with us because we have some teachers. We have some observers. Welcome, welcome. So Manine is going to be continuing we have to call it a series because this is like the third year that he's been doing this now for CGH, Caribbean Girls Hack on the Hackathon with RSC, focusing on design thinking and ideation, all the different how-to tips and tools. And Manine also shared with us in the last session some amazing work that he himself has been doing in the creative space with music, with a music video. So you got to see an actual demo of how he used the design thinking, starting from the idea, articulating it through, and then actually how he actually even created what you would call it, Manine, like a demo, right?
Yeah,
before
like
you did the prototype before he did the final. So I'm handing over to Manine because I know that we, like last time, we had so much information. People were asking you questions. So handing over to Manine. Welcome, welcome. Everybody, let me see a thumbs up for Manine, man. Let me go in and do a thumbs up myself.
All right. Well, thanks for having me again, everyone. I do appreciate coming back. I know the last time we had like a kind of an information overload type of session. I'm not really trying to bust your brains today. For this session, I really want to take a step back and kind of walk you through some of the ways or introduce you to some methods that you could use to help yourself as you come up with the ideas. So the goal is not really to say you have to do everything that I talk about today. It's more of a case where I'm going to kind of do a more deep dive into some of the design thinking practices that I used that helped me come up with my idea and come up with my prototype, and kind of explain how they work so that you and your team could at least have some things that you can research further and use on your own. Does that make sense? You can like thumbs up if that makes sense. That's going to be your method of communication today. So I'm just going gallery view so I can see everybody's thumbs up. All right, cool. So I'll start by sharing my screen. I'll reintroduce myself. What screen are you seeing, Bridget? Are you seeing a presentation or are you seeing a Slack call?
Seeing a guy.
Okay, all right, cool. Right screen, right screen.
Yeah, full front of you and profile of you.
Yes,
All
we're
right.
seeing
Really
you,
cool.
Manine.
Looking cool, looking cool.
So just a quick introduction for those who haven't met me. So I'm a tech guy. I'm by heart a nerd. I studied computer science at UTech, and since then I've been pretty much just in tech as a designer, as a project manager, and I've definitely been acknowledged for a few things on my journey. Cambrian Innovation Award, Founders Institute, and just other things that has kind of just like been helping me know that I'm contributing to the space. Outside of that, I do record music, so I'm a performer. I'm a music. You can follow me at Manine Music, and like you can check out some content that I've showed you last week. And for today, the goal really is to walk you through again just these steps that we talked about last week, which is, defining a challenge, defining a goal, defining a product vision, creating your solution map, developing a mood board, developing a storyboard, creating your prototype, and some tools that you can use to help make this simple. Now, one thing I do want to make clear is that at this stage of the competition, you're really at coming up with the idea, right? You're not necessarily required to have a final product just yet, right? But a concept, and being able to clearly communicate that concept is what I believe the judges will be prioritizing. If it is that you can come up with some demo or some version of it, it could be sketches to kind of explain the concept a little bit more, it would be good. I think the main goal here is to help you guys understand how to even come up with the idea and ways to collaborate and build out that idea. Is that correct, Bridget / Nicole?
I'm shaking my head, yeah, but my camera is off. That's exactly it.
And I use the recommended means of communication, a thumbs up.
A thumbs up, all right.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can't see it. I can't see everybody's thumb. I just see myself.
Yeah, okay, no problem. I'll unmute next time you ask me a question.
All right. So getting into design thinking, like definition, the real core part of design thinking and coming up with any idea is to start by doing some research, right? To empathize with the audience you're building something for. And empathizing in this case is just trying to feel what the audience feels, trying to sit in your audience's shoe so you can get an understanding of what it is that they need. When you're creating any product, you really are creating it for someone. And so your objective is really to identify what is important to that person. And I'll walk you through kind of where to start when it comes to like empathizing with the audience. So once you're able to do some research and you kind of have an understanding of who your audience is and what it is that person is trying to get done and how you can help them, you want to kind of brainstorm with your team just possible design solutions, right? And at this stage, all ideas are welcome, right? There's no terrible ideas per se. Everybody gets an opportunity to sit and come up with methods or come up with ideas and really merge the best of everyone's contribution to build into the final product. And again, I'll also walk you through some ideation tips so that you can use that with your team. Thirdly, prototyping. Prototyping is really a representation of one or more of your ideas. And I use representation because sometimes the prototype, you might feel like the prototype needs to be the idea, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the idea. It could just be something that represents the idea. And representation should make it easier for you to think, oh, that representation could be a sketch, that representation could be something I recorded on my phone, that representation could be even videos that you find online that you stitch together to represent what it is that you're trying to get done. Like any representation of your idea or one or more of your ideas can be a prototype. And at this stage, the representation, I'll kind of walk you through the different versions of prototypes that you'll have following from last week, and revisiting the ones I talked about, which was like the vision, which is the first representation, and then getting into maybe the storyboard, and yeah, the storyboard, which I think is an acceptable representation. And finally, everything you do here, you're really trying to test and gather feedback for your audience so that, well, in this case, it should be gather feedback from your audience, so that you can go back to ideating with your team, building another prototype and testing. And that's kind of like the loop of ideation and design thinking. You're really trying to always getting to your audience and figuring out what it is that they like so that you can build on your idea, so that they are more likely to receive it. You're more likely to hit your goal. So that's design thinking in a nutshell. It's unfortunate. Usually I'm in the room with you, I can like see your faces and I can see the nods and I can ask a quick question. But in the interest of time, I'll assume that you guys are good. I'll say thumbs if you guys are good so far, and I can jump into some of the steps. Let me see if I can find the chat.
We're monitoring the chat for you, Maneen.
Okay.
So what we'll do is after, we're going to take all the questions.
All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So everything starts with strategy, right? Everything starts with a plan. And it's very important, especially when you are starting out and you don't have a lot of resources, you don't have a big production company behind you, that simply just meeting to planning could help get you to hit your outcomes. And naturally, as said last week, you already have your challenges, right? So you already know the problems that you're trying to solve. And if I was to jump back to 1 second to Bridget's presentation. The breakdown of what you're trying to do to build your creative solution. What is your topic? Who's your team? What is the problem? When I say strategy, it's really planning how you're going to address your problem, how you're going to address your challenges. So in our case, let's come back to here. You and your team will the same 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that I mentioned earlier, which is research, ideate, prototype, test. The first version of that is really breaking down your needs. And I'll say it's usually business needs, but I'll say team needs or even the hackathon needs. All right. Just like, what are the things that you're trying to accomplish? And this will be this would have been presented in the competition objective. So it's either, again, talking about the saving the ocean, talking about climate change, just like, what is your need? And you want to like sit with your team and get feedback on which challenge that you want to address. What is your goal? Once you sit with your team and you decide on, and I think most of you guys probably would have already decided on what challenge you guys want to address. The second was kind of looking at your audience and trying to identify, okay, what does my audience need? So who am I doing it for? And what is the scenario that they exist in? And I'm going to explain these a bit more. I'm just kind of like speaking very high level and kind of finding different ways to explain what your process is. So for now, you can just really just take notes and they will make sense in a couple of seconds. But once you identify what your audience needs, you can start ideating and coming around and brainstorming ideas that will satisfy what the project needs and what your audience needs. And then you can go into sketching. So that's really your strategy session, just like starting and saying, okay, I have 4 things to do. I have to define what the project, what the hackathon is asking me for. Then I have to decide who am I doing this for, and I will then ideate around that specific people in that specific context, and then sketch and come up with different ways to prototype that. And that's a typical design sprint session. So last week we discussed when you're starting and you've identified your challenge, you identified what it is that you want to tackle. The next step is really to define your team goals, right? And sometimes your team goals could be, yo, I want to get rich, right? Or your team goals could be, I want to wow my audience, or my team goal is I want to raise awareness, or I want to save lives. Really, the point of your team goal is just to create an opportunity that provides some great value to customers. And opportunities in bracket, because you get to decide what that opportunity is, right? So if the opportunity here is that I want to create a product that will introduce a specific audience to a problem, and them knowing about that problem will allow them to make this type of decision, you really are trying to just define what is the goals for your team, right? And these are 2 formats you can use to either create an opportunity that provides great value to some customers, or you're trying to drive some action, right? By some, and right now it says strategic design goals. To simplify that, it really is your idea. You're just like drive user behavior, influence somebody to do something by offering or creating some specific product or some specific idea. In our case, I remember I mentioned that my goal was to get to 1,000 followers on IG, or get playlisted by Prodigy, increase my plays on Spotify by 500%, because the overall goal for me was to get known. And your goal is really, how do I know that I'm successful? How will I know that I'm doing the right thing? So reiterating a lot of content right now, and I'm assuming that a lot of people who are here now was here last week, so I'm not necessarily spending a lot of time explaining. I'm really just kind of doing a crash course on, okay, this is what we talked about last week, so hopefully you guys are following before I get into this. So your goal, again, you're asking yourself, how will I know that I'm successful? So if I was to take a step back, step 1 is defining your challenge, selecting a challenge. Step 2, defining your goal, which is how will I know that I'm successful? Defining your measure of success. And in my case, it was to get to X number of followers. So in your case, you and your team will have to decide, how will I know that my video or my project or my docu-series or docudrama is successful? What am I trying to accomplish? So another tip when it comes to coming up with your idea is writing down your assumptions. And your assumptions is really just everything around your idea. And I would have given a format last week, which a good way to write down your assumptions is to write a vision statement. So once you know your challenge, and once you've decided on your goal, your measure of success, next thing is to do is to write down your vision statement. And your vision statement would start with a 4. So my product or my docu-series is for a specific audience. And your specific audience would either be, could be children, it could be parents, it could be surfers, fishers. Just you think about your challenge and you think about all the different people who potentially are impacted by that challenge. And then you decide who it is that I want to target. And you can decide to target someone based on maybe you know them personally, maybe they you have some understanding, or I would say, like, you know where they are. So if it's a case where you live beside, if you live at a, if you are all at school right now, or we all have access to teachers, then maybe teachers could be your target because they're right there. Or maybe fishermen if you live beside a beach, or if you can get easy access to a beach, or maybe it's even people who work in a specific office. If it is that you live beside a bank, your goal is really to try to find people who you can reach. Maybe it's your followers on Instagram, maybe it's your fellow students, right? When you're thinking about your audience, you're really trying to identify who is it that your product is targeting. It's not really a good idea to try to target everybody. The goal is really to try to think about, how do I, from everybody, decide on a specific group that I'd like to target. And a good way to define that is think about what are their motivations. So when you say your vision statement, and I will kind of, yeah. When you start writing down your vision statement, I'm going to choose a topic. I'm going to say, let's say it's climate change. My product would probably be for an audience who's impacted by climate change. And you can write down your assumptions around who you think those people are. So the first exercise I want to do is to jump into the first tool, which is stickies. And to use stickies, you go to stickies.io, you log in. If you have a Google account, you can continue with Google. If not, you create an account. And that will take you to a board. Your board will probably be empty. You click add board. And here you can title your board. You can also title pages. So these things are different pages. And I'll pretty much show you how that works. So far I've mentioned having a challenge. You can add another sheet. You can call that a goal. You can add another sheet and call that my vision. And so if my challenge is climate change, and to create a card, you just double click, you type, and to share a stickies with your team, you can just copy this link, copy it, and you can send it to them via email or WhatsApp web if you use WhatsApp web. Once you have your challenge and you have your goal, maybe my goal is to raise awareness on the impacts of climate change. You and your team might decide, how do I break this down? So what type of awareness? So it could be raise awareness on the impacts of climate change on plants, or maybe it's on education, or maybe it's on something that you like, on sports, on the internet. What I'm doing right here is I'm finding different ways to break down a big problem into a smaller thing that is manageable for me. Your objective when you're coming up with your idea is to always make your mission as narrow as possible. And so a lot of us may start here and not sure where to go. A good place to go next is decide on, okay, what is it that I'm interested in, that I think is impacted, that I want to talk about in my content. I'm going to pause a little bit and just ask the room if we're all, if we're following like so far. And I'm going to like jump on some of the questions that I'm seeing here that is relevant to what I'm saying. So someone asked, could you use?
Please, Mani. Yes, go ahead. Please.
Yeah. So someone asked, could you use like a mind map? Yes, a mind map is also a great tool to use. And I'd say Google a mind map if you're familiar with one. A mind map is definitely a great tool to kind of break this down, to kind of just like have your team brainstorm around an idea. And so if you're using a mind map would look something like this, where you have the main idea and you have these different nodes that are connected to it and are different concepts or different ideas that your team could decide to huddle around. And this could be something, I usually like timing events. So if your team on day one, as you're coming up with your idea, you're trying to go through your idea and work together, I would say give yourself 15 minutes for each session. So if it is that you're trying to decide on a challenge, give yourself 15 minutes to decide on a challenge, no more than. If you're trying to decide on a goal, give yourself 15 minutes once you figure out the challenge to like just really start just hammering out different ideas that you could work on. And then once you do that, I will kind of let you know how you vote, for example, and what the team decides on. So let's say I wanted to raise awareness. Can you go where please? I got disconnected when you logged. I think this is going to be recorded. Is this going to be recorded? Or this is being recorded?
It is being recorded, Manine.
Session is recorded, yes.
Okay, so I'll go over it quickly, Olivia. But I logged into Stickies, and pretty much you're able to create these different sheets by adding a sheet, and each of these can be a workspace for the different steps that I'm walking you through. So far I've walked you through coming up with your challenge. Maybe your challenge is climate change, and your team will have access to that. So if I was to drop this link in the chat, and you all, I think I sent that to Naomi. Let me just send that to everybody. Drop this link in the chat, and you guys all signed up. You'll be able to join me here and create cards. And feel free to create cards. I won't be mad. You can work with me here. So I see a bunch of people already here. So you can click the link, and you're able to jump to the sheet that I'm on. So I'm currently on the goal sheet, and I'm saying that once you have your goal, you and your team can break out what it is that you're looking to focus on, right? So let's say my goal was to raise awareness on the impacts of climate change on plants. The next thing you want to ask yourself is, what are some of the things that you need to be successful? How will you know that you're successful? How will you know that you would have raised awareness on the impacts of climate change on plants? And your team potentially could start by saying, we'll know when 100 people have watched my video. Another person might say, we'll know when someone completes a form. And these are just different ideas that people are putting down that would become relevant at a certain point. But for now, what you're trying to do is just really giving your team a space to write down their ideas and decide on what their measure of success is. One rule of thumb is when you're deciding on success, it's good to have some measurable number. So a part of your goal, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 500, maybe it's 10, but it's good to know how many people you're trying to attract, and what are you trying to get those people to do, right? So let's say we have our goal, right? And we have our measure of success. I'll keep it simple. I want 100 people to watch my video, or maybe I want 10 people to view a website on climate change. Or maybe it's, I want 10 people to learn. I need to learn to spell. What about 10 new impacts on plants? Okay. Again, so this is a space where you're a team can really come around and come up with their ideas. And I'd say always time the time that it takes you to do these sessions. 15 minutes is a good enough time to get the team to really think about what their goal is. And once you decide, once you've written down and brainstormed, the next step is really to vote. A quick way to vote is to say to your team, if it is that you have 3 ideas, you give your team the opportunity to vote on no more than 2 at a time. So let's say there's 3 ideas, you give everybody 2 votes, for example. If it's 4 ideas, you give everybody 4 votes. And you never give anybody more than 5 votes. I'm saying this as tips that you can record so that you can come back to this. I'm going to treat this video like a cheat sheet. So I'm just going to say some stuff that will become relevant at a later time when you rewatch this video. Is that okay, Nicole? Is that okay, Bridget?
Absolutely. Go for
Okay.
it.
It's about getting the tips.
Right. So how you vote on an idea that you like, you simply just drop your initial beside it. And I usually have people, so I say, who's this? This is Tavania. Do you mind like just clicking and dropping your initial right here? While Tavania is doing that, right. Once everybody is voted, once everybody finishes their vote, essentially we'll kind of know what are the top ideas. So Tavania and myself voted on this. Maybe Tavania didn't like this. Maybe Tavania voted here. I'll put her name here. It's clear that this one is the one that the team wants us to work on. And these we can always revisit, but giving people the opportunity to just drop their initials on ideas that they like, they can drop it on their own, and they have an opportunity to drop it on another one. It's an organic way for the team to settle on an idea without spending too much time deliberating, right? And so maybe that's our measure of success right now, right? Raise awareness on the impacts of climate change on plants, and measure of success is 100 people would have watched my video. Are we clear on like how we got to this process?
You all can click yes if you agree, or if you're not following, or no if you're not.
Yeah, because I do know sometimes these sessions can feel distant.
You got 8 yeses so far, so I think
Okay.
Yeah, that seems okay.
Good.
We have no no's, which is good.
All right, good. All right, so cool. So that type of voting is a really good way for your team to settle on an idea. So you don't spend a lot of time arguing. Everybody in silence just write their ideas, and then take another 5 minutes. So you take 15 minutes to write your ideas, or even 10 minutes to write your ideas, and then 5 minutes to just drop your initial and the different ideas that you like. And you just based on the number of votes, you move things across and you stick to what you see. And you'll be able to like go through and decide as a team what your goal is. Sometimes you'll have different ideas that they're competing. So 2 ideas have 2 votes. What to do? Usually teams have a group leader. I would say in these sessions, decide on a group leader, and that group leader will always be the tiebreaker. If there's no group leader, you guys can rock, paper, scissors. Who's the group leader today? Or who's the group leader? Who's the tiebreaker for this one? And that person can choose between the others. Can drop their vote on the one they want to go with. And that can be something that's done in a quick minute. So you'd have come up with your goal, right? And your next step is to decide on your vision statement. And the first thing that your vision statement asks you to do is to decide on who is your project for. And I started that conversation. So you'll create a sheet, I already did, called vision. And the same thing that's listed here, for, who, want, product is a key benefit, unlike we, you can write that out here as well. So for is a that, unlike we, and we is just like benefits. but it's just like put benefits to the person. So similar process. When you're thinking about who is it for, you can write down, you and your team can decide, okay, if I have a goal to raise awareness on the impacts of plants, impacts of climate change on plants, and you can use, if you're using a Mac, it is it's command. If you're using a desktop, it's control. You can double click, or you can select multiple things, Control C, or Command C, and paste cards on other boards, just in case sometimes you want to like remember what your vision was. You can do that. But if your vision is to, your goal is to raise awareness on the impacts of plants, impact of climate change on plants, you're thinking about, okay, who is this for? And you really just want to think about, okay, if this is the goal, who gets impacted when plants get impacted? It could be farmers, right? Farmers could be who is it for. It could also be parents, because parents eat food. And it could be children. And I'll stop here, right? So let's say your options are farmers, parents, children. These are different people who this could be for. The next thing you want to do is to do a step further and try to decide with your team, okay, can this be broken down some more? And different ways to break things down is to think about the motivation. Like, what do they want? What are they trying to accomplish? So what that means is, I want to raise awareness on the impact of climate change for farmers who are trying to do X. And that's up to you and your team to decide. And you can decide that based on either what you know about farmers. I don't know much about farmers, so I will just go to parents and I will say, parents who want their children to eat healthily.
Okay, Maneen, sorry, just can you make your text a little bigger? It's a little small for me. Yeah, so maybe a little small for the girls as well. Thanks.
No problem. So this is me again defining my target audience. So it's very important to spend some time with your team to really decide on who your solution is for. And so one way is to, yes, you can say parents, but you also want to know what their motivations are. Like, what are they trying to accomplish? And if you're trying to raise awareness on the impact of climate change on plants, and you're saying you want to do this for parents, then the next step is to kind of figure out, why is this important to the parent? And one idea could be for parents who want their children to eat healthily. It could also be parents who want to start a farm, grow plants, It could also be gardeners. Who want a healthy garden. The point is, it's very important that when you are putting together your target audience, you also include what is it that they're trying to accomplish. Does that make sense? Somebody can tell me if there are thumbs downs.
You have 2 yeses, no nos.
Okay. Once you have answered these two questions, then you would have started narrowing down and coming up with your pitch for your product, right? So you know that your video or your docudrama is for parents. You know that those parents want their children to eat healthy food. And so now you can start thinking about your idea, your product, right? And by now, we'll assume that, let's say your team has decided on the category of the product or the thing that you want to work on. So if it is that you already know that you are working on a drama or a music video, then you would put it here. So it is a music video. Right? And you want to next decide on the key benefit of that music video. Like what will that music video offer to parents who want their children to eat healthy food? One example of that would be uses or explains the impact of climate change on plants using dance moves. Another example could be breaks down how plants are impacted using popular songs. These are just like quick ideas. The really point here is you're trying to just think about what is it that you're trying to, what is the benefit of your product? And I think the most important part of the benefit is this part. Breaks down how plants are impacted. And if you have nothing but this key benefit here, then that is fine. It's just very important that you know, for example, in your vision statement, what is the key benefit of your product? So, sorry about that. Your vision statement for parents who want their children to eat healthy food. My product is a music video that breaks down how plants are impacted. And you and your team can decide how you want to break that down. It could be by I like using because it's simple. So it could be using Michael Jackson lyrics. It could be by using dance. It could be using whatever you guys think you want to do in this music video. You guys can choose that. The real point is that what is the key benefit? Next is this one here, I would say is optional. The unlike, sometimes you want to find a way to make your idea very unique. Like, so how are you different from what is out there? In the interest of time, I would say this one is optional, especially for what you're trying to accomplish. Last week, I would have given an example of what it looks like when the unlike is there. So in this case, I'll just skip it and say unlike is optional. If you want to know how to use unlike, you can use last week's video. And the next step is really just the we, which is the benefit. We will use lyrics to show, or rather benefit, you can say, or music video will be funny, will be educational, could also will use Jamaican memes. Like, you can choose what your benefit will be. That will break down how your plans are impacted. Will break down how you will hit your goal. And that's where, again, your stickies will come in. So as I will leave this here for you. I will not close this, so you can always jump back to this. But similar to how you were able to brainstorm and write your ideas around here, you can write your ideas around here too. So you guys can say music video. Maybe somebody says it's a docudrama. And using the voting to allow your team to kind of vote on the different ideas that you have. Similarly here, what does it do? You guys can just write the ideas on what it is that it does, vote, how is it different, vote, the benefits, vote. And benefits and we do are the same thing. So you can choose to just like list the things that it is that you want to offer for your vision to fill this out. Let me just zoom out a little bit. So I will put this back here. Breaks down how plans are impacted. Unlike, optional, benefit, funny. Explains how plans are impacted in a kid. Explains why plans are important to children. Explains how climate change affects plans in a kid-friendly way. Again, I'm writing these here so that you have them. And I would say no more than 3 benefits that you guys can agree on. So if it is that you guys together wrote 10 benefits, you want to keep 3 of them. And this together can help you come up with your vision on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I know that was very long-winded. I'm trying to just also give you content that you can use after this meeting. So I wrote this out so you can at least have a finished one that you can come to and use as your vision. Because when you are pitching your idea, you can simply read this out and it can be the first sentence that you use to clearly explain what it is that your idea is about, what category it falls in, how it will benefit people, and who is it for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Maneen, can I ask, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the stickies is great. Suppose they don't know the software. They and of course we do have the issues of not necessarily getting together, but can you suggest some ways that they can do a joint thing with stickies individually, but maybe using Zoom with their own sticky pads, maybe using Zoom because they may not be familiar with stickies. I don't even know how many people are familiar with stickies.
I'm sure. So everything that's here could be done using, if you guys have a scribe, you guys could just simply, I could send you this in an email, or when you are rewatching the video, you could simply just write this out in a book. Like you could simply use a Google Sheet, for example. Is a Google Sheet something that everybody's familiar with? Or a Google Doc?
Should be because of online school.
So if everybody's
Yeah,
familiar
that
with
sounds
Google,
like something that would be good. Yeah, maybe. Well, actually, guys, is you guys Manine asking that question, so you can do a thumbs up or a thumbs down, if not really, because he wants to suggest things for you to work on together that makes sense. Not
right?
stuff that you're gonna have to say, oh my God, I'm gonna have to learn that again, right?
Yeah. So if stickies is too much, like if this is really too much, then you guys could do this in a Google Doc. You could take a Google Doc, you could write out your categories, and you guys can work together in a Google Doc and vote in the line same way. The same way in which how you use stickies. So stickies is one good tool, but if this is overwhelming, it works just the same in a Google Doc. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Manine, maybe one of the things that you could just quickly go over is how quickly you formed this, and look at how many girls came on as a part of your team, because that's exactly what would happen if, for instance, the team lead goes into stickies and you all are on Google Chat or on Zoom. And remember, Zoom allows you a free account with 40 minutes. And even if the 40 minutes expires, all you have to do is go right back into the account and restart the 40 minutes. So I would definitely recommend that, in the same way that Manine is we're on a Zoom and Manine is sharing the link, and he shared it, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 girls in, and they actually participated in the voting, right? They were able to put their initials in. That's exactly what you would do. You go into stickies.io, you open up and you start to create your vision. So you may just want to just do a recap of that at the end of this session, at the end of this section, Manine.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think all the girls may have been on at the time when you were telling them how easy it is to actually start the stickies.
Understood. So yeah, so I will. So pretty much, just to do a quick recap, for those of you who might have missed it, if it is that you want to try stickies, you could simply, so let me just sign up real quick. This is what it looks like, stickies.io, and you'd sign up or log in. If you have a Google account, you continue with Google or you enter your information. Continuing with Google, you just select your Google account. And you'll see an empty space here. Mine has stuff in it because I use it. And you can add a board. Once you add a board, it will take you to this space. It will be empty, of course, and you can just copy the link and share it with your team. And they'll be asked to sign in, and you'll be able to collaborate together just to create your vision. Does that make sense?
Right. So if you're in Google, Chat, you could share it in their chat. If you're in Zoom, you can share that link with the chat. All of the team members can open the link and they can be participating in the same exercise on their laptop.
Correct.
And I put that link in the notice board already. So the link you sent,
right,
your link, your personal link, Manine, is on the notice board already. So they can go to the notice board and see what you got.
Yeah, and I'll keep this open. I'll keep this open, so you'll always have it. So once you have your vision, you're really in a good position because this vision becomes your concept note. And you could move on to the next step once everybody is comfortable and excited about what it is that we're trying to do, which would be, you would have defined your challenge, you would define your goal, raise awareness on the impact of climate change on plants or on schools or on the forest, whatever it is that you want to think about. But it's good to have these two where you have your main idea and then the specific aspect of the main idea that you'd like to focus on. And then how you measure success. So how will I know that I'm successful? In this case, it could be 100 people have watched my video. And again, these are big, hairy goals. We have big, hairy, audacious goals. So you're really just trying to shoot for a big goal that you think that you'd like to feel good about. So it's not a case where you have to hit this. It's just really letting people know what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And it's good to aim big because If you aim big and you don't hit 100% of it, even 70% of it is still 70 people. So taking a step back, that's the vision statement, and that's how you define your idea. I think I will email this other piece, which is another way to pitch your product, which is called a log line. Because sometimes some of us are doing stories, and a story sometimes takes a different format in terms of how we present it. I think what I can do is, since there's a notice board, I will copy this out and send it to you.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'm
But
going to just
essentially,
drop it on a notice board for them. Yeah.
yeah, good. But essentially, your log line is really a single sentence that captures the essence of your story if you're telling a story. And it will sometimes have a central conflict that is supposed to ignite the audience's attention or listeners' attention. So I'll read a log line for you. I think I just gave away the answer. But when bitten by a genetically modified spider, a nerdy high school student gains spider-like abilities that he uses to fight evil as a superhero when tragedy befalls his family. I think we all know which movie this is. This is Spider-Man. And this is a log line for Spider-Man. And when you're writing your log line, in addition to putting together your vision, maybe you want to find an alternative way to tell your story or introduce your story. You really want to use this format, which is when some obstacle, a main character must, what do they want? What do they do? Or else what is at stake? And this is just like a quick formula to like pitch. This is just like a quick tip to pitch your story. If it is that you're taking something more dramatic than a documentary or a music video, maybe you want it to be a dramatic. I'll share this with you. I'm just skipping over this so I can jump to really the rest of what I have here. Is that okay? Hello?
That's fine. Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So your next tip here, and this is another help when you are, I'll say, skipping ahead to, all right, cool. So what we would have covered so far is you would have decided on your goal, decided on your vision, you decided on who it is for, and there is some more content in here that lets you know. Could I have an email address that I can share this with for who is going to put this on a notice board or give the girls access to this document?
Kev?
Yeah.
You want to do your, give your email to Maneen so he can just send it to you?
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat, Maneen.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Maneen, just a quick one. Somebody's asking if they could use Jamboard for this, Julia.
When you say Jamboard, for which part of it? This as well?
The size with the stickies, yeah.
Yep. I do have like a list of tools.
Great. There we
sure,
go.
Jamboard is one of them.
Yippee. There you go, Julia. Question answered.
So yeah, so for the group brainstorming, you can use Stickies, Jamboard, or Milanote, or even Trello, Google Docs, or Google Slides. If it is that you want to do prototyping, that's what this list is for. So what I've covered everything around just group brainstorming. And your group brainstorm, your goal is really to come up with your vision, come up with your concept, define your audience. And a simple way to define your audience is just to think about a group and think
Sorry,
about
we're still on the slide with the various apps. We're not seeing, right? Okay, there we go.
Okay, yeah. A simple way to define your audience as the based on this would have been to, let's see, just think about who is it for and just give it some context. And that could be one way to define your audience. So parents who want their children to eat healthily, that's one easy way to define your audience. Just decide who it's for. If it is that you are looking to be a bit more granular, in this document I'd share with Kevin, there are other things that you can use to define your audience. Other thing they can use to define your audience. So you know who they are, you can give them a name, an age, what motivates them, what are they trying to accomplish, what technologies they are exposed to. So these are additional things that you can go in and use. I won't get into it because it's in the document, but I'll just start with the simple one, which is just who is it for and what are they trying to accomplish. How much time do we have allocated for this session?
We'll go on for another, how much time do you need?
I could take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I really just want to know how far I can go. So yeah, I can like
go with another 10.
Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, so for the last 10 minutes, after you and your team would have decided on what you want to do, the next step is really prototyping your ideas, coming up with a version of it. And so if it's a music video, one thing that we do, which is an activity called Lightning Demo, it's a way for your team to join up on a Google Sheets or a Hangout call or a Zoom call. And everybody would have taken the day or some time before, or if they haven't done it and we're meeting up for the first time, we just decided on what we wanted to do. And we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get our ideas out there? You can give everybody 20 minutes to research music videos that they like, if it's a music video, or research other videos that they like. And you can just go on YouTube and you can open up different links of videos that you like. And you want to assign one person as a scribe. And that person's job will be to capture what it is that you say you like. And I will show you what that looks like. So let's say I liked Classic Man video in my presentation when I'm researching ideas. What you will do is you will research Classic Man. Maybe I also liked a scene in the Avengers. Everybody takes 20 minutes to look up different things that they like. And once everybody's 20 minutes is up, they each take 3 minutes to explain what it is that they've researched. So I might say, I like Classic Man, and for my idea, I like Classic Man because of the clothes. I like how good he looks, I like how he's dressed, I like the color that they use, but I really, really like the clothes. What the scribe will do, and this could be done in stickies, this could be done in Jamboard, is I will use Jamboard for this. It's taking forever. All right, so we're having some technical difficulties.
You can just go back to stickies, Malene. The girls who are familiar with Jamboard will be able to maneuver that because you're basically recommending stickies, right? For girls
Well,
who
I'm
are
recommending Jamboard for this exercise.
oh, for this one, okay.
Yeah. So what you'll do with Jamboard is if someone says they like maybe the clothes in this music video and I'd like it for our video, you can take a screenshot. And if you don't know how to take a screenshot, I did include a tool here at the back of it called Awesome Screenshot. It's a Google extension, or I can use a snipping tool if you're using a Windows computer. And both of these tools will allow you to take screenshots of what's on your screen. So I like the clothes here. You can paste that screenshot in
Your Jamboard.
Jamboard. So let's do that again. Copy. And then your scribe can say clothes, vintage clothes. And make a note of all the specific things that your team likes and use this to start creating a mood board for your video. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's cool.
So what will happen is after everyone on your team would have done their research for 20 minutes and then take 3 minutes to kind of express, okay, I like the video, but not just the video. I like the video because the clothes are cool or because I like the use of color. You will have a whole mood board that you can show to the girls in ICT team to just say, my vision is, I want to raise awareness on the impact of climate change on plants for parents who want their children to eat healthily. My product is a music video that breaks down how plants are impacted. And the benefit is that it will be funny, explains why plants are important to children, and explains how climate change affects plants in a kid-friendly way. My concept, and this is where your mood board comes in, is we'll be using color, vintage clothing, and any other idea that your team comes across to deliver this concept, right? And that's your mood board. Like you can use this mood board as a way to show the team and visualize what it is that you're working with or what it is that your team plans to work on. And you can give every person a page on Jamboard. That's usually how I recommend it. So when somebody is presenting, they just take their page and they will talk about what they like about this video, what they like about that video. You copy, you paste it in Jamboard, and you have a mood board that you all can use to again vote on and work with as you come up with your idea. Does that make sense?
That's really cool, Manine. And I'm just thinking that this piece is such an important part of the presentation because it sort of brings everything to life. That
Right.
Maybe what we could do is we could have another session after the girls have sort of had this week to come up with their concept, the vision, the goal, who, all of that. Then maybe early next week, we could do a session on just the use of your Jamboard to really bring across your visuals. Because by then the concept is now coming together. And I think this would be a really great session for them to have because this is going to be critical in terms of allowing your concept to come to life in the eyes of the judges.
Right. So I know I spent a lot of time.
Yeah, without necessarily having to do a trailer or a teaser, you can grab screenshots of things that you like, that you want to replicate when you are doing your actual prototype and put it on Jamboard. So the creative juices of the judges start to flow when they see, I will get what you're saying. Okay, you want to use that type of clothes. Oh, well, that would be great because you're saying that you're appealing to kids or to the parents of kids who want their kids to eat healthily and so on and so forth. So I think it would be great if you have the time, Manine, that we schedule again for next week coming closer to pitch day, so that, you know, everybody can see this come to life.
Sure. And by next week, what would be good is, as you say, everyone has already gone through what I know feels like the boring part, which is the vision and doing the research and deciding on the concept with your team. But it's important that you guys understood that, and I spent a lot of time breaking that part down, because once you spend time to do that, then this part becomes easier and fun. So I will pause here. Everything I spoke about is broken down or mentioned here, which means that you guys could always jump ahead and Google what these things mean if it is that you want to get some insight on how to move from having your vision and defining your user to having your prototype, which is starting with your mood board. You guys can always do that on your own, but since we'll have one last session where I'll focus on prototyping, I can definitely spend some time to do a deep dive on what that looks like. But for now, I think it's my 50 minutes are up. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys. I know last week was a bit exciting. This week was a lot of theory.
Just so you know, you've kept the audience. We can see the number of participants. And you've held it together, Manine, as always. All right, so I guess we could move into some questions now. Okay?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Khadija, you want to take some questions, or you want me to do it?
Oh, Khadija is on, yeah.
Khadija is on. Khadija.
Okay,
hello.
So we're going to close out Manine's. Oh, maybe you want to leave it open, Manine, if you have to reference anything on your presentation.
Sure.
Go ahead, Khadija.
So,
So
Naomi is asking how did you come up with these ways to make your prototype?
So these are a combination of different practices. So I'm using design thinking and lean startup design. So design thinking would have been invented by Google. That's how they make their products. So Google, Gmail, Jamboard, all these products that we're using right now went through this process that I'm talking about in order to figure out how to design them and how to make them user-friendly. So these are principles that I would have learned either in school or through life experiences and trial and error in terms of using them as ways to make ideating in teams a bit easier.
Okay, great. So the next question is from Jenny, and she's asking if the apps that you mentioned, if they're collaborative, meaning that persons can work in all of them at the same time, so in real time.
Yes, they are. So the tools that I would have mentioned so far, Stickies, Trello, Jamboard, there's another one called Milanote, Google Docs and Google Slides are all collaborative tools that allows people to research, to work simultaneously. These other tools that would be used for, I would say, your prototyping. I'll just put a little box around them. These would be what you use for your prototyping. So I know I mentioned YouTube as something you can use to take screenshots. Pinterest is something that you can use to take screenshots, or even just Google Images you can use to take screenshots. An awesome screenshot and snippet. This is a Windows tool, a snipping tool you can use to take your screenshots. InShot is something that I didn't mention, but it's a mobile app that allows you to make videos on your phone. This we can talk about at a later time, but these tools are not collaborative. These are, but we all know how YouTube works, but these will be used for individual research, and this is where you'll put your research.
Okay, lovely. So there are no more questions. Thank you, Manny.
No problem.
Thanks, Khadija.
Okay, so again, I do know this was a very long and theoretical session, but hopefully the information you'll be able to revisit it with fresh minds and use it to come up with your vision and your concept. And this document will be made available. I think it already has been made available. I'll call it See Girls Hack.
And Manine, they'd be able to find like videos and that kind of thing on some of these also too, right? Short videos
Yes.
on YouTube.
So all these titles.
If you have any links like that.
Yeah, so if it is that you want to learn or get follow-up on any of these, the titles here, lightning demo, 4-part sketching, if you want to kind of read ahead, you can definitely Google them. I will change this to art gallery. So you can Google that as well. And yes, you can Google them and get more insight on how they work. Everything else before that is very self-explanatory and broken down that you can use to build your vision statement. And the format for your vision statement, you're really trying to fill this out.
Okay, is that it? We sure no more questions. I saw a lot of questions coming in, so maybe those were just more about the process. Yeah, Kadisha, Kev.
Yeah, so most of the questions were about the process. So
Okay.
those questions will be answered on the notice board, I'm assuming, in the FAQ.
Yeah, or we could just go through a couple of them that are really critical at this point, if you have.
Okay,
any.
sure. So Zanetta is asking if these presentations will be posted on the notice board, like Jamboard stickers, and that's a yes. And Shamari is asking if it would be okay to do a mock version of our solution that will be shown in the video to use as a reference. Want me to reread that again?
Can you repeat that question?
That would be for Manine, yeah.
So Shamari is asking, would it be okay to do a mock version of our solution that will be shown in the video to use as reference?
When you say use as reference, I don't understand the question.
Shamari, you're here?
I think I understand what she's saying. What she's saying is that instead of going and finding a video, if they were to do a snapshot of their video, could they use that to create their storyboard? Like if they're doing a video, could they dress up? I think that's what you're saying. Shamari, come on and tell us if I got what you're saying. Could you actually give a teaser of your video then, is what you're saying. Am I correct? You can speak, Shamari.
She typed in the chat, she said no. Shamari, unmute, please.
Shamari, unmute and just let us hear, to be clear, what it is that you're asking, please. Hey, yes, Shamari.
Good afternoon. So Miss, I was asking, in the event that you make like a mock website, let's say we make a mock website with all the information, with the storyboard, the mood board, and everything, can we use pictures of that in our presentation to use that reference instead of actually going out and finding other people's work?
Yes. So to answer that question, the reason why you would probably do this research is you and your team might not have yet created a website. and you're trying to get ideas on how to come up with a website or ideas from the website that you'd like your team to collaborate on, that's where this come into play, where you'll do research and find other people's work. If you've gotten to the stage where you have now figured out and collaborated with your team on what that end idea will be, and you have a demonstration of that, then yes, you can present. And I think it would be good. You should present the final product. In this case, not everybody will already gotten there where they would have created everything. Some people are still ideating and trying to find ways to come up with ideas, and doing research on other people's work that exists is one way to express what it is that you're trying to get done. Does that make sense?
So Shamari, does that make sense? Shamari, you're on mute, Shamari.
She typed in the chat again. She said, yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so just to make it very clear, Maneen, so the vision, the goal, the target market, what problem you're trying to solve, what is the problem, all of that has to be original thought, right? When you go and you do what Maneen did at the very end of his presentation, grabbing a snapshot of a video that you like because you like the way you like either the scenery, and you're going to try and replicate that when you're building out your prototype, that's when you can actually leverage other people's work to give the judges an idea of where you are heading. But you are not going to be able to use that work in building out your prototype. So you are going to have to dress up in the vintage clothing when you're shooting your video. At this stage, all you're saying to the judges, this is what we are planning on doing. And you're giving them visuals, but your vision, your goal, your problem, your solution, your target market, all of that has to be your own original thought. You can't put somebody else's work there and say that that's what you're going to do. Okay? Which is why that's why Maneen did a mock of the process, and that's going to be available on the notice board. So you can go back and take a look at how we moved from step to step. And we also are going to post his PowerPoint presentation on the notice board, so you can take a look at that as well, in addition to the recording of this session. So you're going to have a lot of information available to you. If you didn't quite get it tonight, you can go back and look at the recording. You can take a look at the PowerPoint presentation, and you can take a look at the stickies link that he has created. Okay?
Yeah. And I'll jump back to this, and I'll make sure it's captured in the video. Like, this is an example of taking screenshots to make a reference to what you're trying to get done. So these combination of images is what helped us to get an idea of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And we ended up creating our original versions of this look, this feel. And at the time, when we were making our notes, we would have said we like the warmth of this feel. We want a coffee shop that looks like this. And that all informed the mood of the either the website or the video that we wanted to do. And the next step, which will be your original interpretation of this, would be your storyboard, your original story that will break out into this, that will be pulling from this mood board. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm prepared.
Excellent. Okay. So what we want to do. Whoops, somebody else has a question?
I realized I wasn't sharing my screen.
Oh, here you go. Right. Okay, this is going back to Maneen's mood board, where he was showing pics of what they wanted to replicate in their video.
In our video. So I just realized I wasn't sharing my screen. So at this stage, this is what would give people an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. in terms of the mood. And then from there, the next step would be to create a storyboard, which would talk about the story that you'd like to be told in this mood. So for now, it's really just ideating and helping you come up with quick ways to let the judges know where you're going, so that when you move to the next stage, you can actually start working on your original work.
Right. So this is what a presentation to the judges would look like.
Oh yeah, I can reshare my screen. Sure.
Yeah. Can you open up on that left side so they can see what those drawings look like?
Sure.
And how did you do those drawings, Mani?
So you can use Google Sheets to do this.
Oh, okay.
Or Google Slides, sorry. So you can you can open up a presentation. Literally, let's see. Yeah, you can open up a presentation. Each of these can be a slide, and it's just images. So we draw them on paper, take photos of them, and upload them.
Great. So you see, girls, you can actually take your photos, upload them, and then you talk about what each scene is supposed to be representing.
Right. And in our next session, I'll definitely
go into this more.
Go into more details. I didn't really get into this, but just to give some clarity, that I know sometimes I feel like you don't want to borrow ideas from people, but in the industry, everybody borrows ideas. Like, it's very important to just do research, because what that helps you to do is identify things that are already liked by people. It's like, if you like it, if you see something that have 10 million views, there are probably things on it that you can borrow so that you can adapt and build up on something that someone else has done. Does that make sense? Like, so you're trying to not necessarily, and I said it last week, the second that you add your perspective to something, it becomes original. So don't be too caught up that you don't necessarily want to borrow anything or get ideas from anybody else. Use other people's ideas to your advantage, and then combine it in a way that makes it unique and add your unique perspective to it.
Yeah, leverage best practices.